All right, welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. We have a little bit of an action packed one today. We're going to go through some trades that we've seen online, give our opinions because those could be some trades that you're seeing in your league or something along those lines. And as always, feel free to drop a comment for any trade advice you may have. After that, we're going to go to an injury report for the Thursday night games, and then we are going to cover all of our Thanksgiving games as well as our Black Friday game coming on Friday. So to kick it off with some of these trades, and I went on and found these, so Schiff has not been, he does not have a predetermined answer. These will be kind of on the spot. Would you trade Devontae Adams straight across? This one's a little crazy, but maybe not. Would you trade Devontae straight across for Tank Dell if CJ Stroud was your quarterback?
That is tough, man. See, I mean, the thing is, Tank Dell's buy is gone. As we've seen from rookie wide receivers, this is around the time that they start booming. And, I mean, what has Tank Dell been doing? He's kind of on the up and up, whereas Devontae Adams is in a spot where, as we talked about in a previous episode, we don't know where that offense is heading. We're at the point where, with Antonio Pierce as the head coach, they don't really have much of an identity. They have two quarterbacks that could easily start on any given week. We don't know which. And when Jimmy's in there, he seems to prefer to target Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
So while it's very crazy to say, I might prefer Tank Dell just because there's more knowing in that situation than there is in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah, that's crazy to say when we think, if I'd asked you that at the beginning of the season. But
no, definitely.
That's
there
how
are
it goes.
people who didn't think Tank Dell would be a legit wide receiver, but here we are.
Yeah.
And it is funny that Tank Dell is the first name brought up because I'm going through one of the communities I'm in on Twitter, going through some of the trades that they're bringing up. One of the first ones is lost Mark Andrews. Should I trade Tank Dell for Dalton Kincaid? Obviously, a lot of these have to do with what other receivers you have.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion on that one, for example?
Yeah, I mean, depending yeah, I like it. Dalton Kincaid has been as consistent as they come since Dawson Knox has gone down. I'm pretty sure he's gotten double digits every single week. He's given you a lot of 13 to 15 point fantasy weeks from a tight end, which is amazing. So it's tough because Tank Dell is very hot right now, but so is Dalton Kincaid. That's definitely a trade out at the worst consider. I'd probably lean towards
definitely.
yes.
And I think there's going to be a lot of teams. I mean, given the fact Mark Andrews just went down, we all know how high value of a tight end Mark Andrews was. I think a lot of teams who had him, if you had TJ Hawkinson, somebody that, or like Sam Laporta, for example, you had Sam Laporta and maybe you picked up Jake Ferguson. There's a chance there for you to flip Jake Ferguson for a better skill position player and leave Sam Laporta in. I think especially this is why we're doing this segment, is because a lot of leagues, ours for one, the trade deadline is this week, if not within the coming weeks. So with injuries like this happening last second, this is the perfect time to go out and make these deals and go acquire someone. Like, for example, Tank Dell, like I said, is coming up in a lot of these. He's one that I'd prefer, if anything, if I had him, to hold him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm trying to go out and get him because I think he could be a league winner down the stretch, like who we thought Puka Nacua was going to be, or who Puka Nacua was looking like at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Puka did his job keeping teams afloat, especially Cooper Cup owners. He kept teams afloat at the beginning of the season, but yeah, Tank Dell could be a league winner down the line. And speaking of Puka Nacua, and again, this one's a bit of a wild one. Would you trade Trey McBride and Rachaad White for Puka?
I don't know if I'd necessarily be willing to move on from Rachaad White at this point.
Mm-hmm.
His buy is long gone. He is getting pretty much all the volume in that backfield. He's getting a lot of targets out of the backfield every week, and that's, especially in a PPR format, what we want out of our running backs. So he's another guy that I'm either looking to go out and try to acquire, or if I have him, I'm holding him.
Yeah.
So another, for example, I brought up the Mark Andrews. So another question at the tight end position, someone asked, would you give up Jalen Waddle for Sam Laporta, having lost Mark Andrews, full PPR?
Oh, that is tough. Okay, this depends what's on the waiver wire. If you have a guy like Logan Thomas still on the waiver wire, I love Logan Thomas. He gives you 7 to 10 fantasy points. He is very consistent. If you can't afford to lose Jalen Waddle, if you're deep and that's not going to hurt you too much, sure. But if it is, I'd keep Jalen Waddle. I'd keep him and roll like a Logan Thomas. It's just tough because I know Sam Laporta, he's had some very good weeks. He's also, I don't even want to say down weeks, but he's had a couple single-digit weeks the past couple, which is expected from rookies. He's not going to give you consistent, like, Travis Kelce numbers, TJ Hawkins. It's just not going to happen. But he's been very good for being a rookie. I don't know. I think Jalen Waddle has, his upside's just so high. I know we haven't seen it much this year, but I'd prefer Waddle.
Yeah, I understand that.
And
it's very understandable.
I mean, we'll up the ante a little bit because I had Jalen Waddle on one of these. Jalen Waddle for Jahmyr Gibbs?
I would prefer being on the receiving end of Jahmyr Gibbs.
You'd prefer to have Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to be on that side of the trade.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I mean, realistically, we're seeing games where Jahmyr Gibbs gets as many targets as Jalen Waddle does.
Yeah. No, that's very true. We're seeing games. That's the thing with Jalen Waddle. He hasn't had the giant plays. He's never been a crazy volume receiver. He's been a very high
efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
It's what he does on the targets he gets, but I mean, it all depends on most of these really do depend on the way that your lineup is built. But in a nutshell, to me, Jahmyr Gibbs' value is looking like through the back end of the season, like it might be higher than Jalen Waddle's.
Yeah.
I mean, if he continues on this pace with the targets that he's getting, that's a very high-powered offense, just as high-powered as the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So.
No, 100%.
Okay.
But
yeah. I think another couple guys that I kind of wanted to highlight were, well, guys on two different teams. The Bengals and their wide receivers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. What is your view on them for the outlook of the rest of the season? Are they guys that you are preferring to hold, or are you selling with the injury of Joe Burrow?
It's just really tough because, like, for example, earlier in the season when Joe Burrow came back, or not came back, when he was fully healthy and starting to ball out again, Jamar Chase was going a little crazy. I had a guy reach out to me for A.J. Brown, and I said, it's going to take Jamar Chase and some. And he was like, that's crazy. And I'm like, is it? Jamar Chase's value now, like, I'm trying to think of like I think Jamar Chase's value right now is around like Michael Pittman. Which sounds crazy, but I have never seen Jake Browning be efficient in a football game.
Well, see, the thing is, and this might sound even crazier, I don't even know. I might prefer to have Michael Pittman.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
I can at least count on, I mean, him and Gardner Minshew have played a large portion of this season together already.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Browning stepping in, I mean, obviously, the number one target is Jamar Chase. But it isn't the same rapport that he's getting targets from the guy that he's been catching passes from since LSU. is completely different. To him, Jake Browning might have more rapport with Tanner Hudson. We
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
That was his first start, right? Or not his first start, but this will be his first start.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's the thing that concerns me. It's like, to me, we're at a point where it's kind of like on the Vikings, where you have Josh Dobbs step in, and kind of like how we said, obviously TJ Hawkinson's value doesn't go through the floor, but it's a lot different now when the guy who's just showing up, it doesn't really make much of a difference whether it's Josh Oliver or TJ Hawkinson. It's kind of the same thing. And another one that I was going to lead that into was the Jets, with Tim Boyle now being named as the starter. What do you think that does to Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, just to close out like the Bengals.
Yeah, we can.
If you can, like, Michael Pittman, legitimately, I would trade Jamar Chase for Michael Pittman just for the certainty. If you can get something like that, then do it. But if you can't, you're gonna have to hold Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and hope that Jake Browning can do something. Because don't sell him for absolute pennies. But the price has gone down.
Like, if you could, okay. Would you take Brandon Ayuk for Jamar Chase?
You'd probably have to. You'd probably have to.
You definitely take I was gonna say, if you said no, I was gonna ask Mike Evans.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you take Ayuk, then yeah. So I mean, I pretty much agree. It's to the point where we really just don't know. You're basically riding on the fact that Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase, but how good did that do in the last game? I just don't know. It's uncertain now, and uncertainty going into the most crucial part of the fantasy season is something that we generally don't want.
Yeah.
So that's why these are the questions that we're asking. It's probably the same with Garrett Wilson. His value might be, after that last game, he might be a guy that you might have to hold, because I don't know if like what you'd be able to get. Like, honestly, I might take like Cortland Sutton.
Gosh. Yeah.
I know how it sounds.
Yeah.
But the way that Cortland Sutton's been playing football, he's clearly Russ's number one receiver. We don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be on a week-to-week basis in New York. That is concerning. So, moving on, though, want to get into a few of the injuries that are, going to affect these upcoming games tomorrow. The first one, the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. And as some of you may know, it was pretty apparent coming up to this week, but Aaron Jones will not be playing. I don't know how long he'll be out for, but 100% will not be playing the 9:30 game in Detroit. Josiah DeGuara is doubtful for the Packers, which has some significance because I believe the only tight end they're going to have is Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Luke Musgrave just went on the IR, so by no means am I suggesting you go out and pick up Tucker Kraft, but if he does happen to have some semblance of a decent performance, he will be a guy to look at, because he will seemingly be in a starting role with Luke Musgrave out at least the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon is questionable with a groin injury, which is concerning due to the fact that they won't have Aaron Jones. It is probably going to be fine. He will probably play, but just something to watch out for in case you were planning on starting him. Also, wide receiver Dontavian Wicks, is questionable with a concussion/knee. A brutal combination.
Yeah.
The next game, Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. Emmanuel Forbes. So a few defensive players for the Commanders will be out. Antonio Gibson with the toe injury will be questionable. He did miss the last game, so if he is unable to go, expect Brian Robinson to have the workload he did in the past week.
Yeah.
For the Cowboys, they don't have anybody on the offensive side of the ball ruled out. Rico Dowdle is questionable with an ankle injury. That, I guess, adds more to Tony Pollard's workload.
Yeah.
The Niners at the Seattle Seahawks. Let's see. We do not have anybody on the offensive side of the ball out for the 49ers. They do have a couple of guards who are questionable, which, as everybody should know, it is very, very significant when starting offensive linemen are out, and especially in the way of the run game.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks, Kenneth Walker is doubtful, and Geno Smith is questionable. That one is the biggest one of all of these, because if Geno Smith is unable to go, it is an extremely significant downgrade to the likes of Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah.
JSN will be practically unstartable, and you are praying that you get something positive if you're starting the other two.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one. With that, we will go into our game previews. Like I said, the first one is the Packers at the Lions at 9:30. Derek, if you wanted to take it away with the Packers. Oh, and the over-under 47.5. The Lions are favored by 7.5 points.
Yeah, and that does not surprise me with the Lions being favored. The Lions are middle of the pack against the pass, giving up 223 yards. Obviously, we've talked about Jaden Reed being the lead receiver. The Packers do not pass the ball very efficiently. The Lions are very stout against the run. They only give up 89.5 yards a game, which is 5th in the NFL. The Jordan Love start only scares me because it's the very first game of the week, and I just don't know. We're gonna have.
I wouldn't prefer to start my week off on a horrible note.
With Jordan Love, it's just a huge risk. You have Aaron Jones out. A.J. Dillon's questionable. If A.J. Dillon, I'm just saying, if he cannot go, it's going to be Patrick Taylor. Exactly. And even if he can go, he's going to be banged up with the groin. The Lions are stout against the run. I don't think the Packers are going to run the ball too efficiently. Then they're going to look to pass.
No, yeah. If you are starting A.J. Dillon, you're looking less at the efficiency in the run game and more at the 6 targets he got out of the backfield last week and hoping that gets replicated.
Yeah. I like, Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. Only tough part here is, again, we've talked about how it's week 12. There's no buys this week. So
yes.
Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs have the highest upside. I think they both at highest, if you're playing a 3-receiver league, have like flex value. If you're playing a 2-receiver league, you should not be having to start Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs. But if you do, between the two, I like Jaden Reed a little bit more, but it's close between those two.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Christian Watson I am not considering starting. He has not been good.
No, it's hard to... I mean, everything we loved Christian Watson for, Jaden Reed is doing.
Mm-hmm. And not getting hurt every week.
Thank you. He isn't best friends with the people inside the blue medical tent.
Mm-hmm.
There's the difference. So, I mean, no, they're pretty much, after last week, it's like they're doing everything they can to get the ball in this man's hands.
Yeah.
He led the team in rushing. He's their lead receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jaden Reed is the guy. Absolutely needs to be rostered. And yeah, if you're in a deeper league at this point, he should not be on your bench.
Yeah. But I mean, that's really it for the Packers, especially with Luke Musgrave out. I am not really looking to start anyone from that tight end room on the Packers.
No, especially in the first week of a Tucker Craft start, I don't think there's any reason for that level of desperation at this point in the season.
No.
But if you're a wild human being, then take a leap of faith, I guess. Um, the Detroit Lions are currently second overall in total yards per game at 399. They are pretty much killing it in all facets on the offensive side of the ball, scoring 27.2 points per game, 263 yards through the air, which is fourth in the league, and 136.5 yards on the ground, which is fifth in the league. And this game, I think it's very easy to go ahead and start both Detroit Lions running backs. The Green Bay Packers are giving up 134.7 yards on the ground, while we're seeing, I think it's been David Montgomery getting worked back into his role. Why Jahmyr Gibbs has been getting the volume he's gotten. I think it's very clear that both of them are going to get enough work to be viable on any given week.
Yeah.
And especially this week against the 28th rushing defense in the league. Just to make it a little sweeter on the other side, the Packers are also seventh against the pass, giving up only 193 through the air. We saw Jared Goff's probably worst performance against the Chicago Bears last week. If anything, the Packers DBs are watching that film and licking their chops. So I think it might be a whole lot of running and throwing the ball when they need to on play action. Obviously, Amon-Ra is a go in this one, as is Sam Laporta. I don't think you're really going far enough to play guys like Jamison Williams and Josh Reynolds. But I think Jamison Williams might be worth a roster spot, considering he's a young guy getting more involved in that offense, and there's no reason he shouldn't be the number 2 above Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond. As we see, they are, fourth in passing. So if he's going to be the number 2 receiver on the the number 4 passing offense in the league, I think that's definitely at the very least worth a roster spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all for Detroit. Probably not too interested in starting either of these defenses. I think it should be forgive me for saying, because every time I assume it's either going to be a high scoring or a low scoring game, it seems to be the opposite. But I'm going to go ahead and assume the offenses do a decent job in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be all for this one. If you want to take it to the Commanders at the Cowboys.
Yeah, and this one, at least on paper, should be another good week for the Cowboys, but I will be covering the Commanders. The Cowboys are second against the pass, only giving up 157 yards a game, which is funny because the Commanders love to do nothing but pass the crap out of the football. The Cowboys are 15th against the rush, giving up 109 yards a game. They are a defense that causes mayhem, causes turnovers, gets touchdowns, fumbles, interceptions, sacks. That is what the Cowboys do, is pressure, pressure, pressure. And Sam Howell gets sacked like none other in the league.
Almost like none other than league history.
Yeah. It's bad.
How close is he to David Carr's record?
I would have to check that, but
okay, we'll bring that back in another episode.
If Sam Howell gets sacked more than possibly the worst football team in a season, in NFL history, that is unbelievable. But that's a different conversation, I guess.
It is.
Sam Howell, I've liked him this fantasy season. I do not like him that much this week. I think it could be a very ugly week for that Commanders offense. The only thing is even if they go down, he's going to be passing the ball a lot. When I look at, he's had 2 bad fantasy weeks, one against the Bills week 3, where he scored 4 points, and then week 7 against the Giants with 10 points. But outside of that, his lowest is 16 week 1 and 18 week 6 and week 9. He has been very consistent. He's projected 15.4. I think he beats that projection, But
I mean,
again,
even last week, in a week that he threw 3 interceptions, he still got 20 points.
yeah. So that's the thing. He has the capability. It's just I don't know how this. It's just tough when all the quarterbacks are now here, and I'm just
Yeah, I
looking at the
mean,
list. There's just safer, like even like a Kyler Murray against the Rams. I like more this week.
yeah, I mean, we've been kind of on the line with him and Trevor Lawrence for the past few weeks. Mostly makes it easy because it's an easy topic to bring up when I have both of them on my dynasty roster.
Yeah,
And this week, for example, with Lawrence going against the Houston Texans, I feel much more comfortable with that play than Sam Howell in Dallas on Thanksgiving.
yeah,
It is going to be the first Thanksgiving all over again.
yeah.
But
If and if to go to the running backs, if Antonio Gibson plays, I do not like the Brian Robinson start. If he does not play,
no.
we've seen Brian Robinson get 15 targets and catch 13 of them in the past 2 games.
Yeah, when Antonio Gibson isn't there, he takes on Antonio Gibson's role.
Mm-hmm.
If Antonio Gibson's going to play,
He's going to steal everything.
by all means, he will get those targets.
Yeah.
He will be a wide receiver out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all a matter of whether or not he plays. So
Yeah, and then, the receivers, Terry McLaurin, you just have to start and hope that he doesn't. He never burns you. It's the same story with him. He's had a couple like really good weeks, but then outside of that, he's giving you like 8 to 12 points.
yeah, it's felt like that with him for the past couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just been a few booms here and there, but mostly mediocrity.
Yeah.
And I feel like, the Commanders spread out the ball probably a little more than anybody who picked Terry McLaurin in a decent spot would be comfortable with.
Yeah.
Jahan Dotson has been getting a lot more involved recently.
Mm-hmm.
We know Curtis Samuel's involvement when he's playing and not getting ejected. And
And
Logan Thomas as well.
yeah, Logan Thomas is the guy other than Scary Terry I actually like starting the most. Only because at the tight end position, he's just someone that no matter who they play, he's getting 5+ targets in the game, and more than likely catching like 70 to 80% of those targets. He's just a safe play at the tight end that 7 to 10 points. If you don't have a higher tier tight end, if you lost Mark Andrews and you can grab a Logan Thomas, he's not going to absolutely burn you. And here's my prediction: Jahan Dotson, if you start him, will burn you this week. That's the prediction.
That's fair.
His past
I have
2
a
weeks.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
Would you rather start Logan Thomas against the Cowboys defense in Dallas
Mm-hmm.
or Isaiah Likely against the last ranked Chargers pass defense?
Logan Thomas. Only
Okay.
because I don't. This week.
It's fair. We don't know.
I
don't know.
don't know, and even if it's against that Cowboys defense, I just
Sure. I was just wondering if you'd rather take the possible upside of that comes with a lot of unknowing as well.
yeah.
We don't know. It very well. They very well could get Charlie Collar involved. It could just be more to the wide receivers. We do not know. You were right about that. But the possible upside in that matchup compared to, we don't know how much the Commanders are going to have the ball.
Yeah, and just to follow that, we if you're in a matchup where on paper you're looking at it like, dang, I'm probably going to lose this, I need a kind of crazier play, I do like the upside of Isaiah Likely.
Isaiah Likely. Okay, yeah, if you're in one of those, but you wouldn't.
If you have a solid roster,
solid lineup, and you're just like, I need to make sure.
I need to make sure my tight end doesn't burn me this week. Logan Thomas is a safer play. Isaiah Likely for sure has higher upside.
It's more of the boom play.
And just to finish with Jahan Dotson, the past 2 weeks he's only had 6 targets, caught 3 of them for 23 yards, luckily for a touchdown this past week. And then the 3 weeks before that, he had 26 targets combined. He is a very streaky player, and against the Cowboys, I don't like the Jahan Dotson. Again, 3 wide receiver, he's a potential flex play. 2 wide receiver should not be a flex play.
I mean, I'm starting Jaden Reed over him very comfortably
Yeah,
in our dynasty league.
and I agree with that.
It's not even, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, on to the Dallas Cowboys side of the ball, where they are currently scoring 30.2 points per game, second in the league.
Mhm.
They have pretty much figured it out as of late. The reason, start throwing the ball to your superstar number 1 wide receiver, and you do well. It's kind of crazy how that works, but they started doing it. CD's been balling, Dak has been doing well, and the Cowboys are 7-3. 255 pass yards a game, 5th in the league. 116 on the ground, only 12th. Tony Pollard, we finally saw get back to form last week. The the Washington Commanders are giving up 114 on the ground, right around what the Cowboys are doing. If Rico Dowdle is going to miss this one, obviously it's going to be even more volume for Tony. Hopefully, if you are starting Tony Pollard, you get the targets out of the backfield. That's something that we have been praying for this season, like him and Austin Eckler, that it just...
Yeah.
We need that back, but I think Tony could have a decent day. I really think that CeeDee Lamb, he could end up wide receiver 1 this week.
Yeah.
Washington's defense is really just that bad. We saw Tommy DeVito get 3 passing touchdowns against them. I mean, honestly, this week, the Commanders are capable of scoring points. I'm not thinking that they will, but if they do, then it's just going to be a high scoring game because the Commanders can't stop anything.
No.
They are like the USC of the NFL. Their defense just says, "Oh, our offense just scored. Let's put them back on the field."
Yeah.
We know you guys aren't watching this for defense. I mean, for fantasy purposes, I love the Washington Commanders. Every game they play is always someone going off. But yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks, I think you could start him this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you could start him this week. The Washington defense is just that bad. Michael Gallup is...
No.
I think Brandon Cooks is solidifying himself as the number 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, the number 2 receiver, because Jake Ferguson is still around, to probably get more targets every game than Michael Gallup will. So your starts in this one are Dak Prescott, obviously. Tony Pollard, you have to. It's no matter how many weeks he's burned you. And yeah, he got back last week. I think this is going to be a good week for him. Yeah. We saw what Saquon did to them last week, put up 30 on the Commander's head. CeeDee Lamb is also very obvious. Brandon Cooks should be a good start, as should Jake Ferguson. Dallas defense might score 20 plus again.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the kicker, Brandon Aubrey. Yeah. That'll be it for that one. I mean, the Cowboys are favored by 13.5 points. So
it's unbelievable. But
it is not often you see a team favored by 2 touchdowns in the NFL.
No, not often at all. But that'll take us to our next matchup and our final one from Thanksgiving Day, which is the 49ers taking on the Seahawks in Seattle.
The Niners are favored by 7 on the road.
That doesn't surprise me either. It's
with Geno, especially, yeah, with Geno's status up in the air, I'm surprised it isn't more. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, and the Seahawks defense has been a little below average on the season. They're 21st against the pass, 232 yards, 19th against the rush, 112.6 yards a game. The Niners are one of those obvious teams. When we talk about our starts, Brock Purdy, I do like the start. I guess he's not the most glaringly obvious, but he's been playing very well as of recent. The Brock Purdy start you have to make this week.
Yeah. I mean, you want to say that, but God, if you look at some of the numbers against the defenses that aren't, I mean, you can't really hold it against him what happened against Cleveland. Minnesota's defense has actually been fairly good. Um, and then what was the other one? They lost Cincinnati. I think that was still a decent fantasy game for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this past week, good Lord. The efficiency.
He was perfect.
And,
He finished with a perfect
good
QBR.
Lord. I know.
That's unbelievable.
I know.
Like,
he was like 21 for 25, 333 yards.
Mm-hmm.
3 touchdowns. Yeah, so yeah, you have to start him.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's a start. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is a start. Brandon Ayuk, you're starting. Debo, you have to start, especially where you drafted him. You just have to start Debo. I kind of throw him in the Tony Pollard bucket. You hope that he has a good week, but he's taking a backseat fantasy-wise.
When there's so many playmakers on an offense like that, some weeks there's going to be an odd man out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going to be yours.
Yeah, it's felt like it's been Debo more often than not.
A lot more lately.
Yeah, but still a guy you have to start.
That's what happens when you miss time.
Yeah. And then George Kittle as the tight end, obviously. And you know what? If Geno is not able to go in this game, the Niners' defense is a good start. Drew Lock will throw the ball to them.
I think the Niners' defense might be a good start either way, because even if Geno is able to go, he has an elbow injury significant enough that at a point in this week, Pete Carroll straight up said he had no idea whether or not he'd be playing.
Yeah. And we saw him at the game trying to throw. It looked.
Exactly. So it's like, even if he does go, I don't want to put this out there, but there's a good chance he doesn't play the whole game. Yeah, there's a good chance we see Drew Lock in this game regardless.
Yeah.
And if Drew Lock plays football against the San Francisco 49ers,
you know the result.
Yeah, it's going to be a horrible day for Seahawks fans.
Yeah. But that's all I had for the Niners. I feel like it's easy on that side of the ball.
Oh, yeah. A lot harder is the Seahawks side of the ball. Right now, it is looking like Kenneth Walker is not going to play, which makes it pretty clear that, if you don't have Walker and you have Charbonnet, you are starting Zach Charbonnet.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes, it's not the prettiest thing given the fact that the Niners are currently third against the run, only giving up 81.4 yards on the ground. But if all of the volume is going to go to one single guy, I don't hate it. He is a decent pass catcher.
Yeah, that's what'll save him.
That, especially due to the fact that the Niners pass rush is going to be right on the ass of whatever quarterback is in that backfield.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of a necessity. I see him getting at least 5 or 6 targets in this game. I think Zach Charbonnet is a pretty good start, honestly.
Yeah.
Getting to the wide receivers, this one becomes a bit more difficult. And fortunately, you have some leeway due to the fact that it's a Thursday night game. Now, if your other options happen to be in the first 2 games, well, it's not very difficult to make the decision if Amon-Ra is one of the guys you're looking at.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're starting him, But if you're getting into the next one and you have like Terry McLaurin or Brandon Cooks or like Tyler Lockett or JSN, DK Metcalf, you're looking at that, and if Geno Smith isn't going to play, I'd prefer any of the options in that other game more than the Seahawks. It's just hard to trust. We saw Drew Lock come in, throw 6 passes, 3 yards, 1 completion to the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't give me much hope, especially given how good the Niners defense is and how good they've been playing.
Yeah.
Definitely something to watch out for. And if, like I said, one of those players that you would be pivoting to is in an earlier game, definitely keep your eyes peeled and maybe just go ahead and be proactive about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd be much more wary with the Commanders wide receivers just due to the fact that it's a tough matchup, but still, I'd much prefer that than Drew Lock against the Niners by any means.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really as far. There's just so much unknowing that I can't give a definitive answer, but that's really what we've got. So, and then our final one, is our Black Friday game. The Miami Dolphins going into New York to take on the Jets.
Yeah, and this one should be an onslaught for the Dolphins. The Jets are 30th against the rush, 137 yards. They're 5th against the pass, 178 yards. But the offense is going to do the Jets no favors today or tomorrow, Friday, whatever day it is. They will do them no justice, no favors. Raheem Mostert was limited at practice with the ankle and the knee. I assume he's going to go. Same with Tyreek Hill with the hand injury that he's been limited. Devon Achane, that's one where, I mean, obviously we don't know, but I would assume after he re-aggravated it, you're taking on the Jets this week. Mike McDaniels, give him a week to get healthy.
It's a short week. It's a short week. I'm not confident that he will be playing.
Yeah, but our other guys, I like the Tua start. I like Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. We saw Salvon Ahmed is now on IR. So if Achane does not go, Jeff Wilson's going to be the secondary running back. Just something to note. By no means am I saying or even considering starting him, but Miami defense, I think you can start this week against Tim Boyle.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be. I guess you could start Breece Hall.
Garrett Wilson should ride the pine this week.
I don't think you should start Garrett Wilson this week.
No. Which is crazy. But we said the same thing with Derrick Henry against the Jags, and look what happened.
I genuinely do not see any scenario where I just don't, where he gets it done. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This week, he is one of the best talents in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot overcome Tim Boyle.
No.
I'm sorry. That's it though. Like, there's genuinely after watching what they did last week against the Bills, in an all but must-win game.
Yeah.
No faith.
No.
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 Yeah, so I think you could throw Breece Hall out there. He's obviously going to get the volume, probably going to get targets out of the backfield. Yeah. But yeah, guys, that will be all for this episode. I know that went by really quick once it got to the Jets, but just...
That's what it is, though. We all know it.
I'm not going to tell you to go out and make a leap of faith, and it's too late in the season. These weeks are too important, and I'm not leaving my fantasy season up to Tim Boyle.
No.
That's that. But yeah, that'll be it for this one, guys. Like we said, we are coming down to the trade deadlines. If you have any trade ideas, if you are going to let us know, it does help us if you give us a little bit of insight, how many teams are in the league, how many wide receivers you guys have, running backs, the format, so on and so forth. So it gives us a little bit more, because without knowing who else is on your team, how your team's set up, it's hard to give solid advice. So if you just give us a little bit of knowledge before, it'll really help us out. But any advice you guys need, we are here for that. Even through tomorrow, if you guys shoot a DM through any of our social media platforms, I will get back to you. So any help you guys need. Also, thank you guys very much for all the support. If you want to get in for the sleeper, you guys can just hit us up at any time for that. And Derek, go ahead and take it away.
Come back next time. Take more reps with the first team. Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes,
everyone.
indeed. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.